Start, owner of the movie, with Brody, who will be a pilot, and see it. In a hurry to arrive at the airport quickly and be the reason for its delay. He's a problem guy. He suffocated with one of the customers and hit him too. Woody is not the first time, because he always makes problems with the flight attendants who work with him. When Brody enters the airport, he talks to his daughter. A video at the same time, Cole. He concludes his security measures to catch his flight. His daughter says she wants to spend her birthday on an island. And make sure that it will not be useful to miss this New Year's Eid, because she wants to spend it with him. Brody says that he will be with her, and I hope that nothing happens to disrupt it. And after that, we know that Brody, can he catch his trip in time and knows from his assistant daily, Flight Officer Marsh. He still didn't fly on the plane to know who was late. And we will see the two. They discuss with each other about the flight they will take and say, daily, the weather is very bad. This will cause them some difficulties on their way, and when they talk, the flight officer enters them. And he tells them that their plane is Triple Laser 109, heading to Tokyo. The payload will be 48 passengers. When he sees Brody on the screen, the road on which they are supposed to be knocking is full of clouds. Suggests that they take another path. But the flight officer interrupts him and says, there is no change and that the weather will improve by the time they reach the area, and that the second road will take longer. Also, the cargo of the trip is very small and not worth it. This whole lap, and to complete the excitement, my friend, the two are Brody, and his assistant is Berryho. The officer agrees, although they preferred the second solution because it is safe. And then we see the host Bonnie interfering with Captain Brody. And you say they want him in the aisle of the plane, so the captain goes to know exactly what is in it. And he meets an officer with them, one of them. And we know that the police will hand over this person. In Tokyo, this criminal will be charged with premeditated murder. And they will be with them on the flight on the plane. This makes Captain Brody worry more, because it's normal. If the passengers knew something like this, it would make them worried. Chaos will spread on the trip. The captain asks the officer to keep his hands off the criminal. He sits at the end of the room behind the wheelhouse. At the same time, he will stay next to the criminal and will never leave him. Captain Brody concludes from this story. After that, we will see him with the rest of the flight attendants who will be with them on the trip, Isabella and Maria. And Maria will go to the passengers on the occasion of the New Year. And we see the faces of the passengers, including a businessman named Snickler, very irritable man, and two passengers are complaining that the plane is tired. Not suitable. But Captain Brody tells them that the plane is perfect, and they will arrive well, and what do you need? Among the passengers is the daughter of influencer, and with her friend Katie, and they will have a problem. Because the place where the officer and the criminal Lewis are sitting is their place in a ticket. Alsamaria let them take another place, and when the two girls try to take an ancestor's picture of them, the criminal appears with them, and he notices and says they erase the picture. And after all the passengers settle in their places, the journey will be about to start. And Captain Brody says the flight brief in the internal microphone, and then he makes a joke like this that breaks the weather and the flight takes off. And the world will be completely cattle. And the additives serve them to passengers very kindly. The pilot captains petted Shaw together while driving. Just suddenly the world you are starting to take another turn, because the storm is doing something they were expecting. When they were discussing with the flight officer, Captain Brody asks the passengers to fasten their seatbelts well, and it connects to the terrifying air movement, to inform them of the current situation. Unfortunately, no one will reply to him, and while they are walking, they enter more. In the air of the storm, lightning strikes the plane and makes it shake, and the passengers start their voices to rise and scream. Captain Brody has to leave his place for Dilly, and he reassures the passengers and says that the weather is a bit of a monster. They are just fine. After that, Brody asks the flight attendants. They don't allow any passenger to untie the security belt at all. And the lightning repeats more violently and makes Brody flop in his head and bleed from it. But he doesn't care and returns to the base room quickly, because the situation is not reassuring and the situation is really dangerous. Because the power was cut off from the plane too. Even the communications are not delivered due to the storm, and the rain never stops and affects the vision. They try to find any way to catch a signal. Unfortunately, they will not have solutions in front of them and take an improvised decision. They're landing the plane as close as possible. We will see the host, Bonnie, informs passengers that the power has been cut off on the plane, and they fasten their belts well, and no one moves from his place at all for any reason. Pedoro passengers through a device. His name is Gerscope on a safe place to land. At the same time, additives do everything they can, so that passengers will be free from their places. During repeated tremors in the plane, fall from the officer. His phone is in the corridor and he tries the flight attendants. They prevent him and warn him that he is rising from his place. But the officer does not hear anyone and hits the plane's lightning. The next time is stronger. Let the officer fly and mess up in the roof of the plane and descends on the ground more than once. And the telegram hits him directly and he gets rid of him immediately. And the hostess Bonnie sees the view and she will be unbelievable and terrified. And she tries in a quivering voice to let the rest of the passengers not move. What kind of happened after what happened to the officer? Really, the passengers are fixed in their places, especially after what they saw despite the horror that happened to them. We go to the village room again, and the captains will finally find a suitable place to land. But the problem is that they are in front of them for 3 minutes Engines stand, because of the power outage and every second will pass. You put pressure on them, and with tremors, whoever doesn't stop, Captain Brody lands the plane and can go down. Go, Forrest. It makes the wings of the plane flop in the trees very quickly and violently. Just the important thing, my friend. They can land in peace and appreciate the captain and his colleague. They're finally breathing after they were about to die. Passengers celebrate that they survived. Benslow finds themselves on an island. Bisebo. Officer's body, the heir of trade, and the captain says they could be close to the Philippines. And with the dawn of the second day, everyone will be safe and to some extent feel comfortable. And we see on the second side the president of a company, the decision of an emergency meeting worker to see the plane triple laser. Wonder. Finn disappeared and there will be a person named Scarsdale is a former Special Forces officer. He will remain responsible for the rescue efforts of the plane 109. And we see Crystal shaking the officer, who didn't hear Captain Brody's words before that from the beginning, and they had to take the road to safety before the start of the journey, and the rescue team knows. The last signal I got from the plane, she was in Manila. Just along, the signal cuts off. Ascarisel discusses with his team how they can locate the plane. We will return to our plane, and we see Bonnie, and she is giving the captain the keys of the Lewis and tries to Prodeo daily through the paper map. They specify that they may have landed exactly where, and they will finally arrive. To conclude, they're on an island named Jolo, and Deli worries when he hears this talk and says to the captain, it's an island ruled by armed militias, known for murder and robbery, and the captain decides he's hiding this from the passengers, so that chaos does not spread again, keeping them safe, and he starts helping the passengers work makeshift tents. On what they find a solution, the Sinclair businessman who is suffocating with Daban and Shaw says to the captain he does not like what they did and how do they set up tents in the forest. What for him is not safe at all, and it is better if they prefer to fly the plane. Know Captain Brody that this was not useful, because the plane does not have electricity and heat, and he is supposed to appreciate what the pilots did to keep them safe and go to Delhi with Brody, so that they try to fix the holidays caused by lightning. But he fails and Captain Brody enters the plane, and I find the officer's bag. He notes that Lewis is missing. Just meet him and decide to take him with him so that they can turn on any aid that will deliver them to the airline. On his way, they stop and with a group of passengers, they inform the captain of his plan and take Lewis and Gaspar with him. And they go. And we will see after that at the company's headquarters in New York. The rescue team is collecting evidence, but they will not have reached anything. I'm still in some doubts. It is possible that the plane landed in the Philippines and uses Scritel, all his contacts, so that it can be delivered to something. Based on the information he has, we go back again and see Brody walking with Louis. They ask us and what, because when he was on the plane, a little while he found a knife in his knee, but Alwith insists on his position. I don't want any information. After that we will see the Armed Terrorist University. We get to know their leader, whose name is John Marr. The one who informs him is one of the members of the village. There is a plane that landed on the island and adds a violin. It landed near the minefield. Commander John Marr concludes that this is an impossibility for the army, but he will not have other information. Back to Captain Brody. And we see that the criminal Louis Sabe is in the middle of the road and Brody can deliver to a place like this warehouse, in a phone line, and can fix the communications department there and call the airline and let them know the whole situation. But the person who is with him on the line does not understand anything, and the connection is interrupted. Brody's trying to order it again, but there is no benefit, and Brody calls his daughter Daniela at the time, who will be. I'm very worried about her father. He reassures her father and asks her to swallow in the airline. They're on an island called Jolo. But while he is with her, he talks to her and someone hits him from the back. There is a very fierce confrontation between Brody and this person. In the end, Brody can get rid of him and he hears the sound of a fire strike. Then he prepares his pistol and hides. And it's surprised after that the person who got close to him is Lewis. He also switched a rifle while they were coming down from the place, a group of 200 militants. And Lewis remains the one who eliminated them, and they find a camera, record it video, in place for a group of foreigners who stole before that, so the two of them are on the plane's place to follow them. Before what happens to them, who were afraid of him, he gets a group of Arab women, and it has armed men attacking the passengers of the plane. But after a short while, Lewis will arrive with Captain Brody and Bischofo from afar, the gunmen. They threaten passengers and take their needs. Among the things they took was her value of passengers and Bessel, one of the militants, on who Brody, just no one from the passengers. Bigobo, a girl tries to run away, so they hit them on fire. Her colleague screams and tries to run on her, but they will save him without any mercy. And Captain Brody can't stand the view. He wants to run on them, but Lewis shoulders him and prevents him because that's how he tells them, "Come take me." Also, their number and the amount of weapons they have are large. Gang leader John Marr asks his men. They take every need from the passengers and shorten them, Bimshaw. After that, Louis and Brody can kidnap one of the gunmen. They hit him until the gang tells them, "Where are you going?" and says them, "Really, the place you are going to be called Dendlet. It's a village on the island." Then Captain Brody enters the plane, and Bicep is a message to the rescue team that is on the way. After what delay, somehow, can he fix the holidays on the plane and be a Skristle? Destiny clearly defines their place. We will see then Lewis and Brody arrive in the village. Who will be there? The passengers are detained in it, and they can appreciate both. They kill all the gang. They liberate all the hostages and ride with Commander Brody. Bus, and he has to prefer it in the village, to distract the gang, and we see Brody endangering his life. And he will talk to Golmar, worker that I don't know, but John Fire orders his men to beat and torture him. In this moment, we find the Special Currency Squad, the one responsible for the rescue, attacked the village and follow Brody and get rid of all the gunmen who are around him. And it will be the reason. Of course, this is the message that Seven Brody in the plane. We will see after this Gunmar is angry, very because of what happened, and he orders all his men who stay to go to the place of the plane, and we go to the plane's place, and we see Brody. He asks the passengers and everyone who is there that they trust him, and his plan is to try to fix the plane. The Special Operations Task Force protects the passengers, because when another plane comes, it takes about a whole day. Gunmar and his men are on their way to the plane. On Arabic, and they have very many weapons. They arrive and hit a fire intensely, and one of the passengers is injured. And there is another confrontation between the operations team and the gang members, leader, John Marr. And the confrontation lasts for a while, and Captain Brody tries to deliver to the plane to fix it. He describes his leg and completes and informs the company's headquarters. He's flying. The company's president is dismissive. Just Scrattle supports him and agrees to this decision. And we go back to the hurts that occur and remain. He hears the rescue squad covering the passengers. They're getting on the plane, and the captain will reconcile the holidays and get everyone on the plane, except Lewis and the rescue squad. Let's see, Lewis has another plan, because he knows if he returns to prison, he takes the bag of money that was with the gang and runs away immediately. And we see Gunmar with one of his men. He tries to hit the plane Barbie G. Louis just shoots him and saves the plane while it is taking off. I appreciate Captain Rudy flying the plane and landing it at a nearby airport safely. Finally, the danger ends and all passengers are thanked, the brave captain who could save them all. And we see the passengers coming off the plane and happy. Like the video, if you like it, my friend. And don't forget to share your opinion with us in the comments. And suggest us movies that you like to summarize. I wish you would share the channel with us so that you can see all our summaries that are coming.